Alright, let's take a look at this nice little battery charger from UPLUS, 12 volt, 6 volt automatic battery charger. I guess that depends on your definition of automatic, but we'll get to it. Got some simple instructions in the box. You have a pigtail you can use for a permanent connection to a battery cable if you would like, and then you get alligator clips as well, which I already have installed on a test battery over here. That's not going to fit. Well, what I have going on is I have my test battery, which can't really see the terminals of it that well, but we drag some stuff into hopefully view of the camera here, and maybe get it to where there isn't too much glare for you to be able to read that. Alright, this multimeter here is hooked up through the ammeter leads, so I realize I've got kind of a confusing looking tangle of wires here, but we've got the output side of the charger, right, going to the alligator clip leads. The positive lead is going to the positive terminal of the battery. The negative terminal of the battery is going through this lead wire, going in and out of this multimeter, and then through the negative side alligator clip of the battery charger and back to the charger. Why are we doing that? Well, we're looking to measure the current that it's putting out, and right now it's not plugged in, and the good news about that is that I do not measure any parasitic draw on this battery that I can see through the charger while the charger's not plugged in. So that's a plus. That's a win. That's a good thing. Sometimes certain chargers, when they're connected to a battery, especially if you say you use that pigtail, you want to leave it connected to a battery all the time. Well, if all of these LEDs were lit up sapping power during the time that's not plugged in, that could be a problem for some applications. So we're not seeing any parasitic draw. That's a plus. That's a good thing. Let me get a power cord and we can plug it in. First, maybe if we got room, we can get one more multimeter involved here. And I don't have alligator clips for this one, so let me see if I can get creative with sampling the output of this battery. This is just to take a reading, so these don't have to be anything too fancy, as long as they're touching some of this metal somewhere. We'll be able to get some kind of a reading. Okay, so this battery, if you can see that, so this one is set up to measure current, amps right now. This one is set up to measure voltage. The battery is resting at 12.29 volts, so it's a little bit discharged, nothing terrible. Okay, that's the resting voltage right now. Now we're going to plug in this charger. Okay, charger's plugged in, and this is something that you might want to pay attention or think about. This charger, as you can see from zero current going in or out and the voltage not changing, this charger may be an automatic charger, at least based on its description of how it functions with regard to conducting a charge. But it's important to note this charger does not start itself automatically. So that I didn't pay that close of attention when I was looking at it, and I was thinking, oh yeah, I will, you know, it's splash resistant, mostly waterproof. It has these nice mounting tabs, and it's an all nice sealed unit here. So I was originally planning on mounting this under the hood of one of my classic cars that I don't use that much. Well, if the charger doesn't turn itself on and start itself when you plug in the AC power, because I would hypothetically have bolted this up under the hood of a car and left the AC cord portion hanging out through the grill or under the hood. Well, it won't turn itself on, it won't start charging when you plug it in, so I'd have to actually pop the hood and come in and hit this start button here. So that's, for some people that's a good thing. Some people don't want the charger to start automatically. It depends on your application. It's just something that you need to be aware of. The other thing is that it defaults to the AGM battery setting and probably 12 volt every time. So let's say I switch it to be the standard lead acid, and say it was bolted under the hood of my car, and then I unplug it and I drive my car somewhere, and obviously all the power drains out of this. It's still hooked up to the battery. It's hooked up to the battery and I haven't disconnected it, but when I come and plug it back into AC power, it defaults back to the AGM setting. I don't love that. I wish it would retain the battery setting that you specify. So you need to be aware that it will always, when you plug it into AC power, default back to the AGM, and presumably the 12 volt will default as well. So yeah, now I'm getting the flashing red arrow. I hit the button for fun. Yeah, so go ahead and switch back to 12. I know you can't charge it at 12. Whatever. Unplug it again. Let it all go back to default. So that is what it is. Some people want a battery charger that starts when they tell it to start. I wish it would remember the type though, because there's substantial differences potentially in how it manages a sealed lead acid, absorbent glass mat, and a lithium iron phosphate, the voltages and the current and stuff. So I don't love that it doesn't remember which type of battery, but that's not the end of the world. So without further ado, if I go ahead and hit start, watch the current, watch the voltage. We're set to a standard sealed lead acid battery, which is what this is. Here we go. We see our voltage climbing. We shot right up to 4 amps, just about on the dot. We're just over the 4 amps that it's rated for, and we can see the voltage is climbing. So that's looking good. It's assessing the charge state of the battery. It's just giving us kind of 4 bars, and it's saying that we're about, working on being between half and 3/4 charged, and based on the voltage reading we saw previously, I would say that is accurate. So it puts out exactly or just a fuzz over the 4 amps that it's rated for. That's great. It is working its way up in voltage, which is a-okay. And another point, this will stop when it decides that the battery is full, and I'm not sure if it actually does really do a trickle charge. I should have grabbed a full battery to test that with, because it seemed like to me that it stopped, but I didn't actually have this hooked up to know for 100% certain. So I think what I'm going to do for the moment in this mess of wires and stuff here is just leave this be. I'm going to let this work on charging this battery. I just set it to standard lead acid. I hit start, and it's doing its thing. I will cut the video and bring it back up, and we'll see when it reaches full charge if it maintains some kind of a low current trickle charge or not. Quick update here. It's been I don't know, at least an hour, but we're in the final stage of charging now. We can see that the current rate has backed off a little, and we're leveling off on a higher, still a pretty substantial charge. The unit is pretty warm. It's pretty darn roasty toasty. Not so hot that I can't hold it, but it's hot. This thing is hot, and we're down in a cool dark basement, so I mean on a hot summer's day, I'm not too sure how it would like this. This is all sealed up, and it's really warm, so it's still charging, but maybe we'll take a look with the thermal camera here while we wait for this last stage to finish up. Alright, well that took longer than I thought it would, but we did eventually reach a full charge. I guess the battery was a little bit more depleted than I thought it was. So, you know, it ran all the way down the bars, and I did take that video and some pictures with the thermal camera partway through. When it was at a full 4 amp load, I measured this at about 140 degrees Fahrenheit surface temperature, so it was pretty warm, but then it started to drop off 3 amps, 2 amps, amp and a half, and so on over time, and the heat went down as well, and now I feel a slight warmth out of it, but nothing much, and it peaked at about 14.7 volts at the top of bulk charge, I believe, and now we are at a floating charge of 13.36 volts, and we can see over here on the amp meter that the trickle charge is apparently slowly pulsating or cycling or something to that effect. It's not exactly constant, but maybe if I were probably not in danger if I go down to the milliamp scale, I hope. About 1.5 milliamps it looks like. So it's doing a cyclic float charge, it looks like, at about 13.36. That all seems fine, and it will just stay there until I unplug it or turn it off. So, like I mentioned before, you know, if you unplug this, then it just shuts down completely, and if you plug it back in, it won't do anything until you hit the start button and select the proper type of battery. So, not automatic in the sense of automatic start, but it does automatically go through different stages of charging and then hit an appropriate float charge. So that's all good and well. If I were to restart it, it very quickly goes back up to the fourth bar. It's doing about a 14.7 volt finishing charge there at a little over a half an amp, and it probably won't do that for very long at all before it realizes that the battery is in fact full and then goes back to that float charge. So that's a little look at how it works with a sealed lead acid battery there. Seems to work well, other than the case getting pretty warm during the middle of operation. You know, it's something to consider. I don't know if it's really a big concern or not necessarily, but just something to be aware of, especially if it's going to be used in an environment that's already really hot. I guess I'm more hesitant now to put this in an engine bay. You know, a lot of engine heat besides, and maybe the heat of summer. The ambient temperature in my basement is somewhere between 65 and 70 degrees right now, so, you know, just about double that, and I don't know, maybe it would get too hot. I don't have any evidence for that. I just don't like it when stuff is overly hot, but there's still a lot of great uses for this charger. It does seem to be reasonably intelligent, easy to use, and has a good charging strategy. So I would still say I'm very pleased with this, and I could go ahead and recommend it. One more quick clip here for giggles. I've got this on a lithium iron phosphate battery over here, so just the same test rig, and I will cycle through to the lithium iron phosphate setting. 4 amps is a little more than I like to charge this small battery with, but I'm just gonna fire it up for a second just to see. I don't think I'm gonna run through a full charge cycle, but it looks like, and that battery is probably just about fully charged anyways, so it's examining the battery right now. It's kind of feeling out the characteristics, and it looks like it's realizing, like, yeah, this particular battery is already pretty well charged. We can see the current did not start out that high, and it's slowly making its way down. The voltage is slowly creeping up, and that's about what I would expect to see, I would say. So actually, maybe I would feel pretty good about using this with even a little bit smaller 10 to 12 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery, if it's not going to be, you know, overly aggressive with a full 4 amp charge at a high voltage. It definitely looks like it's being more intelligent about it than that. So I was going to set this aside and work something else on the workbench, but now, just like the last battery, I'm kind of curious to see where this goes. So we'll let it go for a little bit. It's run down to about, now we're under 2 amps, and we're on our way to go over 14 volts, but everything is staying within spec of what this battery is rated for. Should get to somewhere around 14.4 volts, and the amperage, you know, a little slower is just kind of better for the life of the battery, but not too critical. So we'll see what it does here. Let's let it go for a little bit, see where things end up. Alright, it's looking like it has decided that this battery is full. It pretty quickly, it's only been maybe a couple of minutes at most since I cut the video last time, and it pretty quickly went from the flashing second bar all the way up to the top. Seeing a little bit of variation in the output voltage, kind of interesting. I'm seeing a peak of about 14.7, so like it's giving it a little surge once in a while, and we see a half amp cycling on and off over here. This isn't flashing, so that would, to me, mean that the battery is full, or should be expected to be full. So half amp surges with spikes to 14.7. I'm not quite sure if that's normal or expected or what, but it did, you know, I was pretty sure this battery was full anyways, and it pretty quickly verified that it is. So it appears that it works well with lithium iron phosphate batteries as well. So one more little tidbit there, and that's enough video for this product for now, but it's looking good.